It's me, Krysa. Today we're going to go over the top 10 ways inmates disrespect each other, female edition by Jessica Kent. Now, in this video, you're going to see or hear her and see her talk about different ways to you're going to be disrespected in prison, and then she's going to tell you what to do or what she thinks you should do in those situations. It's basically just telling you when you should defend yourself or whatever, but just hearing her talk about it and the way that she does, it's pretty disturbing. I'm gonna go ahead and start it and start reacting. I'll have to pop in periodically through this so that it's fair use. But once you guys hear this, you're gonna be like, "What? This is like top 10 ways inmates disrespect each other." More like how to stand up for yourself when they disrespect you, because she's basically telling you when you should say something, when you should do something. So we'll see.
Oh, all the ways. Let me count the ways. Let me count the ways. What's up, you guys? Welcome to today's video. As you can tell by the title, we're going to be talking about the top 10 ways females disrespect you in prison. Now, this video, I can make this a 20-part series because there are tons of little ways that women will disrespect other women in prison.
There's hundreds of different ways that women would disrespect you on the outside, so I can only imagine there's going to be thousands of different ways that they can do it on the inside as well. This video right here was literally just something to put her into the algorithm, because if you know anything about the algorithm, putting top 10 ways to do anything is going to pop you in the algorithm a lot quicker than anything else. How-tos, top 10s, all that.
There are also tons of ways that guards will disrespect inmates or inmates will disrespect guards. There's a lot of disrespect that goes on inside of prison, and I'm going to break all of that down for you guys today. Now, before we get started, y'all already know I'm not glorifying or glamorizing going to jail or prison. There is nothing cool, fun, or funny about it. It is my hope that in sharing my story, it will deter some of you from making the same kinds of mistakes that I made.
Now, in my opinion, that is bullshit what she just said, that she's doing this for your benefit or whatever. She's doing this to pop in the algorithm, period. It's in my opinion. But let's listen.
So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started.
Now, one thing about her, she talks about her ways of, how people didn't mess with her, and she was little New York or whatever, but she didn't look too intimidating to me if I seen her on the street or in jail. So
now, if you are going to go to prison, there's something that you have to know, and that is that you have to be respectful at all times. Not only do you have to be respectful, but you have to stand up for yourself if other women are not respectful to you. That just goes without saying, and it's something that you pick up.
Now, please, nobody take this information that you're going to hear in this video and use it, because I'm not saying that it works or anything of the sort. Yeah.
On very quickly. So let's talk about the first way that inmates will disrespect you. This is something that I like to call dry snitching. This is the biggest form of disrespect. This is the biggest that you could possibly have in prison, and this is something that will get that person probably beat up. So what is dry snitching? What does that look like? What do I mean? Dry snitching would be like if I had just made hooch, which is prison-made alcohol, and a correctional officer walked into the unit and someone said hella stupid loud. What's up with that hooch, Jess?
Now, I do agree right there. That would be considered a dry snitch. But what'd you do to that girl to cause her to do that? Is my question.
What? No, you didn't. No, you just did not say that loud as hell where the correctional officer can hear you. That is dry snitching. So that is literally the worst thing that you can do to another inmate, because now if the correctional officer heard what you just said, which probably he did, they're immediately going to toss your cell. They're immediately going to be looking for whatever it is.
Yes, they're gonna do that because Jessica, are you forgetting you were in prison and you weren't supposed to have any of that shit? So obviously, yeah, they hear anything like that, they're gonna search your shit. You're really just taking this time right now to fill up minutes in this video. This is basically common sense, is what she's going to be spitting out here. Anything that would be disrespectful to you out in the public, basically, is disrespectful to you in there. You're going to hear the different things. It's just like, you could be out in public and have some weed on you, and someone, there's a cop standing outside, and they're like, "Hey, you got that joint?" That's still the same thing. It's not necessarily just dry or it talking about how to survive in prison. This is how to survive in life, basically. But it's silly. Like, oh, someone yelled out, and a cop could possibly hear it. Like, come on, girl.
That this bitch over here just said that you had. So yeah, dry stitching is one of the worst ways that an inmate can disrespect you, and that goes against everything in the inmate code too. Now, if you see this going on, you definitely have to stand up for yourself, but this is such a small thing that most people that have never been to prison are gonna be like, what's the big deal? Who cares? If you're on the phone talking to your family, and
Now, I do know this because of my husband being in prison. Phone time is very, very important to them. And if there's someone standing around you talking, listening, or any of that, my husband, when we would talk, he would snap out on them for being right there listening to his conversation or being too loud to where he couldn't hear our conversation. So I will agree with that. On the phone calls that she's going to talk about here is how they disrespect you when using the phone.
there is a girl standing next to you, not on the phone, not doing anything, just standing really close, like standing up on the wall while you're on the phone, like right next to me, like you're right here, and I'm standing like this, just listening to your conversation, just standing there listening to you. That is another.
Now, in my opinion, someone wouldn't do that to you unless they thought you were a complete pushover in the beginning. So I'm not. If maybe when you first get in prison, you know what I'm saying, they might try to pull some stuff like this, but this is not something that's going to happen on a daily basis unless you're just a pushover.
Really small way that a woman will disrespect you. Why are you standing right there? You're not on the phone. You're not doing anything. There's nothing right in this area. You're literally.
I think a better video for her to have done here would have been how to stay out of prison, not how to deal with inmates when they disrespect you.
Just standing on this wall to hear what I'm saying on the phone. Now, this might seem very, very small. This might not seem like disrespect, but in prison, this is disrespect. And the reason why that female is standing there just listening is to see all different kinds of things. Are you going to talk crap about the people that are in the unit? Do you have money coming in? Do you have a visitor coming in? There are all different kinds of reasons why that female.
And that I will agree on right there. It is true. They will stand there for that information because if they believe you are a pushover and you're receiving stuff in your commissary this week or someone's putting money on your books or whatever and they can hear that, they can know they're going to come back to you later on in the week and push you over some more and do whatever the hell they want. But, yeah.
Wants to hear what you're talking about on the phone, and she's going to stand there and she's going to listen to what you're saying. And unless you say something about it, that's never gonna end. Unless you say something about it or unless you learn a different freaking language, she's going to stand there every time that you're on the phone to see what you're talking about. Now, there is a million different reasons why disrespectful female number one is listening to female number two on the phone. Many situations could have gone down before she's just standing there listening to you on the phone.
And that's facts. She could be just straight trying to punk you out to make you look like a bitch. I mean, or she could be trying to find out the information, like I said previously.
So now saying something while you're on the phone with your family member, saying something in that moment is not really a smart idea.
Okay, so what she's going to tell you right here is that it's not really a smart idea to let your family know that you're in distress of any kind whenever you're in prison because they don't want that going on. They don't. Your family doesn't want anybody messing with you, you know what I'm saying? They don't want to know you're stressed out. They don't want to know you're dealing with somebody that may beat you up or none of that. So you have to like deal with it while you're on the phone, then get off of it and deal with it afterwards. Same thing that goes on with visits. You don't want to like do anything right before a visit or whatever, or during like on the way to a visit, because you could end up losing all rights to visitation when people have driven hours to see you. For instance, I will talk about when my husband, um, he was, I had driven 2 hours to go see him, and he literally was standing in the line to come out to the little telephone where we seen each other through glass, and the dude got in a fight with him solely over the fact that I did not bring his girlfriend to visitation when I was never asked, nor was he. And dude was just mad that he had a visit and, my husband had a visit and that he didn't. And so he attacked my husband attacked back, and they got into it, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, that is one thing you don't want to like have nothing going on while you're on the phone, because they can restrict your phone privileges. You don't want nothing going on during a visit because they could restrict your visit privileges. So yeah, and you don't want your family to stress, because in reality when they got into that fight, I was lucky that they allowed my husband to come out and still visit me after that fight, and they were both bloodied up. And then as soon as the visit was over, they put him in the hole with the same guy that he got in a fight with. But they waited and let us visit, which was really cool. But this was a little bitty podunk town jail that he was in, literally, because they had him on a hold there. But yeah, it's crazy. Things like that just happen out of nowhere. I will agree with her there that this is like my husband never expected it at all that this dude was going to trip on him because his old lady didn't get to come to visit when he never asked him to have me pick her up. It's just crazy.
Because then your family member is going to hear you fighting with someone and they're going to be worried. So in my experience, I would just wait until the phone call was over. Maybe if I didn't want her to hear something that I was saying, I wouldn't talk about whatever it was, hang up the phone, and then I would address it. I wouldn't have addressed it while my family member was on the phone, because I don't want them to be worried about me fighting with someone. That's the last thing you want to do in prison, is make your family worry about you even more than they're already worrying about you. While we're talking about a phone, let me tell you the third way that a female will disrespect you in prison, and that is by talking stupid loud while you're on the phone and they're like close to you.
See, I just mentioned that a second ago. I remember my husband many times screaming at the dudes in the jail, "Shut the fuck up! I can't hear nothing." Da, 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 da. Yeah, because it was just a big open room that echoed really bad, and you didn't even have to be really close to the phone to cause that issue. So like my husband, when he'd get on the phone, I mean, he'd scream at people to shut up so that he could hear, and they would listen to him, thank goodness. But yeah, it's crazy and true.
Having a whole conversation, they're being straight up disrespectful. And there's a couple of different reasons why they do this, and I'll get to that in a second. But if I'm talking to my friends and you're 2 feet away on the phone and I'm in like an open dorm, there's a million other places where I could be having this conversation, but I chose to have this conversation loud as hell right next to you. It means I don't have any respect for you. That's the reason why they do it.
And not necessarily, because there's a lot of situations, like I just said, where it's a big open area. There's like an echoey area, but it's not actually like big as in room that you can move around. Like there's only certain areas you can be at a certain time when you're in jail, and so these people had to be in these certain areas. And even if they went to the like the furthest point they could from the phone, then that was still in their area. Sometimes it would still be too loud to hear what was going on, like on the phone conversation for each other. So yeah, it's not always because they're right there, and it's not always disrespect whenever they're being too loud. Sometimes they just don't realize someone's on the phone.
Is very disrespectful. If someone comes in the unit and it's quiet and they're yelling about something or going off about something, that's disrespectful too, because the unit was just quiet and you're coming up in here screaming and yelling about something stupid while we're trying to watch TV or while we're trying to be on the phone. That's disrespectful. But if someone is like standing in your bubble while you're on the phone having a loud ass conversation, they don't care about you, and they're going to make that point be known, and they're doing that for a reason.
Now, guys, in my opinion on this right here, what she is basically doing is setting people up to get in trouble in prison and to get in fights in prison and telling people what to deal with and what not to deal with. And that's kind of something you have to let that person themselves figure out once they get to prison what they're going to deal with and what they're not going to deal with. You cannot just sit here and tell these people you got to get upset about this, you got to get upset about that. You're going to possibly get somebody hurt by telling them to do this because you have no idea who you're telling them to attack. It could be one of the biggest shot callers in the prison that you're telling them to call out, and they don't know it, and they don't know any different. They get in jail, that someone gets in their bubble, they start yelling. The next thing you know, they're yelling at the shot caller. That's not the no. You can't do that shit in prison. You got to figure out your role where you lay, and that's how it is.
Number 4, moving your stuff. Now, let me tell you about this. This might seem very small, but this is the most passive aggressive bullshit that.
And this right here is bullshit. Anybody that moves or touches your shit is very, very disrespectful. I know my husband could not stand if anyone got near or touched his shit. Only his closest friends, and yeah, I mean, no one really messed with my husband too much in jail, but there was a lot of other people that got messed with that were smaller, and it's crazy.
You could ever do in prison. So at McPherson unit, which is the last unit that I was just at, you had to have a radio to listen to the TV. And women would put their radio on these metal benches that we had to sit on. Really uncomfortable. But you would put your radio wherever you're going to sit on these benches. Now, if, say, I put my radio down on the front row where this little tiny TV is, and I'm going to watch whatever's coming on, but I have to go make some food or I'm going to do something else, I have just saved my seat with my radio, and then you come over and you're like a cat and you push it off the bench.
Now, guys, if you ever go to jail, please do not listen to this one right here, because literally, you're gonna piss people off if you think that you're gonna get up out of your bed and take your radio to the very front row of the seats and sit it down and then go get the rest of your shit ready for everything while everybody else has had to go get their shit ready, and you took the first seats available whenever they're actually the first one there and waiting, and they get to, no. I don't, there must be a difference between the men's and like women's prisons, because there's usually like everybody kind of knows where they sit. There's different TVs for different groups usually, um, and usually prisons are separated by race, and that is just a common thing now in men's prison, not in a women's prison. Not so much, but still, like, just because you're going and setting your radio down somewhere or your headphones or whatever, uh, I don't know. I haven't been in a women's prison, but I would say that if you're gonna piss some of the people that's been in there for a while, if you're a newbie and you're coming in and you're putting your radio in a front seat and then going to make your shit, when they come up there and they want to sit down and they see a bunch of radios and all the chairs and they gotta sit in the back when they were there before all y'all, no, that's not gonna work. So don't take this advice to heart all the way 100% that she's giving you, because in my opinion, she's setting people up to get beat up.
That is disrespectful. That is a blatant, you just crossed the line into disrespect. But that would happen all the time. The fighting of the radio on the bench situation. People.
Yeah, because you cannot do that. Like, most of the time it goes by seniority and reality and like what your ranking is in that fucking group that you're in, or where you get to sit. And most people sit in the same spots every day. And if you're going into a jail, like, say you tell, like, you guys listen to this and you go to jail tomorrow and you get a little radio, you go up to the front seat and put your fucking radio down and then go over to get you some food or whatever and blah blah blah, and then come back and think you're gonna have a seat there. In my opinion, I don't think that your radio's still gonna be sitting there. You're gonna be lucky if it gets stolen or tossed across the room. If you think you're gonna jump in there and get in the front seat of a little bitty TV like you stated, like, no, you could possibly get people beat up, Jessica. What the hell?
Would try to save their spots by putting their radio down, and someone would come by and just freaking move that shit over and sit right down in that spot. that will start a fight in prison. That is a big no-no. Do not move your
I believe it'll start a fight either way it goes, from one side or the other of that story.
stuff. Now, it seems small, but it's not. Number 5, reckless eyeballing your mail. Now, I have a whole story time on my channel.
Now we'll agree on this. From when my husband was in there, that was an absolute 100% nobody got to see his mail. No one got to be near him when he read his mail. That was, when you're in jail or prison, mail is something that is very treasured by a lot of the inmates, at least on the male side. I could know from my husband's, like, the mail is what they got to latch on to home with. It's not that everybody gets phone calls, and when you do get the phone calls, and it's so expensive, and like, just a lot of people only get to communicate by mail, and if you come in there messing with their mail, they ain't gonna like it. If you're eyeballing, if someone else is eyeballing your mail, especially because that's your story, that's not their story to read, you know. Even if it has nothing important in it, it's still your story and not their story to read.
Of what happens when someone gets your address to your family. But my address was stolen when I was in the county jail in Arkansas.
Now, this is absolutely insane. I've never heard of this happening before, but it happened to Jessica Ken, apparently. Listen to what she says happens.
And this female had taken my address of my friend, had gone all the way to New York, and was staying there and stealing from him, and it was this whole bad situation.
Now, she's saying someone snatched the address off her mail, got out of jail, and then went over to her buddies or whatever and started staying with them. Like, she was totally taking advantage of her buddy. But why'd her buddy let him in the first place? Like, why didn't your buddy tell you that some chick from prison was staying with him that was in prison with her? Like, come on now.
Because she had taken my address in county jail. Now,
I believe there's a whole lot more to this story than just her taking a fucking address in county jail and deciding she's gonna go stay with dude. There's a whole lot more to this that she's not telling. There has to be. Because that kind of shit just don't happen. People don't just see your address and go, oh, okay, I'm gonna go try to live there when I get out of prison.
never in a million years thought that that would happen. I thought maybe if an address of mine gets stolen, they might just write my family. They're not gonna go try to live there at my family or friend's house. So that was a crazy story. If I can find it on my channel, it's really old. I will link it down below. But reckless eyeballing your mail for your address to write your family, or reckless eyeballing your money slips. So if family members send you,
yeah, you get the money slips and they know you got money, so they know you got commissary coming. So if you're a pushover, then they're gonna come snag your commissary.
money, it comes on a little sheet, a little form, and they send it to you through the mail. The prison does, to let you know, like, oh, Jessica, your mom sent you $50. Well, we all know what those money sheets look like. And at mail call, if you're reckless eyeballing those money slips, ooh, that is disrespect. You need to keep your distance and stop trying to reckless eyeball my mail or my.
Yeah, I agree on that too. I mean, yeah, it wouldn't be smart for anyone to go into jail and start looking at somebody else's money slips. You better just be guarding your own money slips and make sure no one sees what you got coming in, rather than being worried about what they're going to do.
Money slip. Number 6, talking to your visitors at visitation. So every single week, most prisons allow visitors to come in. I never had a visitor when I was in Arkansas. The 2.5 years that I served there, I would have random visits in New York, depending on if I would approve or deny the visit. I was a very shitty.
Now, she's going to talk about someone talking to your visitor. I can say from experience with my husband that only if you were a friend of his that was really close, like that when we had visitations previously, that like when we would sit there, we'd kind of sit there in a group and talk, because it would be him and a couple of his buddies out at the same time on visit, so we'd all be in the chairs. This was when he was in a different facility. We got to be able to touch and sit next to each other and everything. This was when he was in federal prison. But yeah, just crazy. Like,
kid when I was serving time in New York, you know, young, 18 years old. I would deny visitors. I would deny my mom coming in. I just wouldn't want visitors.
and the same with my husband on that. Like, there was point in times to where it was harder on him to talk about what was going on the outside than it was to, I mean, it was harder for him to hear it, and just, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was so hard for him to deal with it. Sometimes we just didn't talk, and writing was the best thing for him. It was really up to him what he felt like doing, because I've never been to prison and I didn't want to push anything on him. Um, but it's really hard for someone when they're on the inside and they got people on the outside. It's a lot harder than you realize, and I will say that.
So, but let me just explain this one to you. If you're at visitation with your husband and you're talking to him and another female is in visitation, they have a visitor, but they're trying to talk to your husband, that is so disrespectful. And this is a situation.
Oh, hell no. I've never had that situation come about. Like, none of the dudes that talked to me were like anybody that my husband was worried about. Like, they had their wives there or whatever. They would just say hi out of respect. But, like, no, I've if the shoe was on the other foot and I was in jail and one of the female inmates tried to come out and talk to my husband before I got out there to visit, yeah, I'd have an issue with it, because, like I said, those visits are treasured and they're yours, and you don't want to share them. Just in reality, you don't want to share that person with nobody there.
Where you can't say anything in visit, because if you say anything on the visitor floor and you start a fight with her, you're going to lose your visits for who even knows how long. 60 days, 90 days, it depends on, you know, the hearing that you have. When you are written up and when you're in trouble, you go in front of a hearing committee, and they like a little mock jury, and they decide if you're guilty or innocent or what your punishment is going to be. So if she is talking to your visitor,
That's all I gotta say. If a female was talking to my man when I come out, I'd be shitty. I will say that, but yeah, no. That doesn't happen a whole lot, and for her to put this in like the top, like this is number 5, I guess, and that she's saying to beware of or whatever, like, that's not gonna happen a whole lot. You're not gonna have a ballsy bitches that are just out there randomly talking to your visitors. That was not a big problem for my husband in any of the jails that he was in. Jails, prisons, federal, or state.
that is so bad and it's so disrespectful. And keep in mind, your family does not want to think that you're going to have problems. They want to think that you're okay. And if you're fighting with someone on the visitor floor, it's bad for so many reasons. You're going to get written up and your family is going to worry. So a lot of times you just have to sit there and like bite the bullet. If you're not willing to throw down on the visitor floor, which is very, very bad, you're going to lose your visits. But if you're not willing to say anything, you just got to sit there and deal with it and try your best to ignore her until you get back to the unit, because this is prison, this is not the Girl Scouts. So that is a really serious way that inmates can disrespect other inmates. Number 7, if a female just walks up in your cell and you didn't give her permission to, blatant disrespect. She doesn't.
Yeah, your cell is your home when you're in there. People don't just walk in your house when you're at home. They knock, they ask. You should do the same in prison, because that is your little home.
Care. She does not care.
And I apologize about the screen flip in there. Trying to do housework at the same time, guys. Sorry.
This is a situation that happens to a lot of new people. A lot of new people will let the veterans come in and out of their cell, and that's just not good. I was always the kind of person, if I was in a closed tier unit and I had a cellie, I didn't like people coming in and out of my cell, and a lot of times neither did my cellie, and I would make sure that people weren't trying to come in and out. For multiple reasons. One being they could steal from you. 2 being, the second reason being I like my space. I don't want you just up in here. If you want to talk to me,
Right, I feel you there, 100%. I feel her on that, because no, you don't want someone just up in your space, all that, seeing what you got going on, even seeing what mood you're in. None of that. It's none of their business unless you allow it.
can talk in the day room. You're not trying to come in my cell. Back up. Also, I'm a Virgo. Everything's neat and organized. I don't want you touching my stuff. So inmates can control very few things, and having our cell nice and neat is one of the things that we can control, and that's a lot of times what we did. We liked our cell in order, we liked it very neat. Not everyone.
That's the truth. My husband was one that was very anal about his being very, very neat and clean. But there was others that did not. And if they didn't keep their stuff clean, or they was in a cell with somebody who wasn't keeping their stuff clean, like, or who wanted it clean and they weren't keeping it clean, a lot of times it would result in a fight, because people don't want to be living with your stanky ass if you ain't taking a shower or cleaning up after yourself. People don't want to live with that.
Some people just don't care, but the Virgos cared. So yeah,
And a Libra, right here, I would care definitely, because if that's all you got, like, keep it clean.
if people are coming in and out of your cell, that is a blatant disrespect, and you have to put your foot down. The first time someone does it, you have to let them know, you cannot come in my cell without my permission. Back up. Because if you let it happen the first time, they're going to come in again and again.
And again, and again, and again. And that is true. I will agree with that one too. But again, I will say this once again. This woman is basically giving you a how to uh, survive in prison kind of here. But she's like laughing and joking and all that shit. And it's like, girl, there ain't nothing funny about any of that shit. No. Ain't nothing to be smiling about, none of that. So why are you sitting there with a smile on your face, like, oh my god, don't let this happen, like, oh my god, don't let this happen. It is what it is. I could be, this video right here could have been done by anyone, not just you. And I feel like you literally did it just to rank in the algorithm. Top 10 ways. If you search top 10 ways to do anything, you're gonna hit in the algorithm.
And again and again. Number 8. Cutting in front of you in a line. Now, let me explain lines in prison.
Yeah, you don't cut. You don't allow other people to cut in front of you. It is what it is. It will result in a fight in the male's prison. I will tell you that. I do know that for sure. From a story Mr. X, my husband, will probably tell you guys in the future. But yeah, it's a no-no.
You have to wait in line for everything. For pill call, commissary, chow, library, anything that you're going to do, you have to stand in line for. Church.
And do you know how she calls it pill call? It's med call. It's not pill call. They don't call it pill call. They call it med call. But in your brain, automatically switches to pill call. Why are you still like doing that, having reactions like that when you're supposed to be clean? I'm just curious. Like that's not a sober person's first reaction.
Rec, you're standing in line. So you're in line, at the bare minimum, you're in line 3 times a day for chow, at the bare minimum. But you also have to stand in line for rec, and you have to stand in line for everything that I just mentioned. So if you're standing in line, and say this one girl is ahead of you and her friend walks up and they start talking and they cut you in line, that is disrespect, and you have to be like, no, back up.
Okay, now you just said, Jessica, you have to be like, no, back up and put your fist in your hand. You do that. You're telling people to do that when they go in there. You don't know where these people come from that are going to jail. You don't know how they were raised, what kind of situations they were raised in. For you to be sitting there telling them how they should react, what you just told someone to do could seriously get someone hurt if they do it to the wrong person. Like, this person could literally just be there talking and not actually trying to cut. And if you like, no, and put your fist in your hand, they're going to take that as a sign of aggression. And you're going to be lucky if you don't end up in a fight right there from that person. Not from you trying to save your spot in the line, but from you automatically snapping off at somebody. You want to make sure you know what the hell's going on. Not just, oh, well, they're talking in front of me, they're automatically cutting. Not all the time. So until you know for sure, don't listen to this bitch, because she gonna get you hit. She gonna get you locked up for longer, or she gonna get you in trouble, beat up, whatever.
back up. And if you don't, you're always going to get cut in line, and they know that they can cut you. They know that they can just stand wherever they want. They know that it doesn't matter what line you're in. It doesn't matter when you go to commissary. So if you let them skip you in line one time for chow, they're going to skip you in line for commissary, for rec, for med call, for...
I'm sure, yeah, if you start letting people cut you, they're going to keep taking advantage of you in any situation in there, though. It's not just that. It's not just the lines. It's anything. Any kind of disrespect at all. You just got to learn your ways. And by her sitting here making this video, it didn't really help anybody out. It's probably in the long run going to end up getting someone hurt because they're going to go in thinking, oh, they just got to do this, and they're going to do it to the wrong motherfucker and get hurt.
Library, they're going to skip you in line every single time because they can. So that is a really nerve-wracking thing where you have to stand up for yourself for all of these situations. And while that seems so small, I promise you that is going to get on your ever-loving last nerve the longer that you're in prison, because every day you're standing in line.
Yep. And it will get on your nerves if you continuously let someone do it. You realize for sure it's being done. Yeah, say something. You know, look, I'm not going to be walked all over. Find the next motherfucker is what, you know what I'm saying? Don't put your fist in your hand like you're going to aggressively come at a motherfucker, because you liable to get knocked the fuck out and not even see it coming. So, don't always take people's advice. Life experience is best.
Every day you're going to get cut in line, like, no. Let me tell you why this is important. Say this girl keeps cutting you in line and you're going to chow and there's coffee in the chow hall, but the coffee always used to run out.
Yeah, I agree here 100%. You don't want to let a motherfucker cut you in line, because like you said, like she's going to say right here, if you ain't got no coffee from your commissary, and this is the only cup of coffee you're going to have all fucking week or all day or whatever, you are looking forward to that cup of coffee. If someone cuts in front of you and they get that last cup, yeah, you're going to be pissed off. That's just period. But like, you're making too much out of this line deal where if someone goes to jail for the first time and something like this happens and they're a newbie in jail, you're telling them what to do, but you're not telling them how to defend themselves after they get knocked the fuck out by this person because they did what you told them to do.
Okay, but say she cuts in front of you in line and you just really want coffee. You don't have commissary coming in. This is the only cup of coffee that you can have a day, and they're really tiny cups, and you're just waiting for this cup of coffee. You woke up at 4 a.m. trying to get this coffee because you just really want that coffee. It's the only coffee you're gonna have today. And this,
believe, if you're in jail and you that bitch that gets that last cup of coffee and there's been somebody that's been waiting since 4 a.m., if you don't turn around and hand them that cup of coffee, you might get your ass beat then. Or when you're least expecting it, because that shit's not going to leave that woman's mind. If she really wanted that cup of coffee, she going to beat your ass whenever she can.
chick cuts you in line, and by the time you get to the chow hall, she gets the last cup of coffee. And you have to watch her drink the last cup of coffee. You can't tell me that you wouldn't be pissed off about that. So that is why you have...
I'm making my coffee right now. Hell yeah, I'd be pissed off. But like I said, no matter how mad you are, if you a little nobody in jail, don't take this chick's advice, because more than likely, unless you a bad bitch, bad bitch, you most likely ain't gonna be the baddest bitch in that jail. And just be careful. Don't always take people's advice like this. Watch and learn, you know.
Have to let it be known that you cannot cut me in line. Back up, end of the line, number 9. I don't know where we are. Who knows? Snatching your stuff from you as a joke. Just as a joke. So say it's mail call and...
It would get on your nerves, but I don't see it as anything serious enough to make it as number 9 on your top 10 list of ways to get disrespected in prison.
I get a piece of mail and, you know, the guard calls me over and hands me my mail. And I got my envelope, and I'm just here with my little envelope, and someone goes, "Oh, what's up? What's up? Come get it." And they're just joking around.
Bitch, I already know what she gonna say. Hell no, that's my mail. That's mine. Don't you touch it. Like I said, that's their story. That's my story, whatever. And no, that's nobody else's story but mine. They will. I know for sure the men will fight over that.
Bitch, no, it's not okay. It's not okay. And then they'll even go a step further and start to open your mail. So that is a problem. And a lot of people try to play off a lot of things as jokes. They try to
My bad on the flip again, guys. Sorry.
play disrespect off as they're kidding around or they're just joking or relax or you need to calm down. By the way, when in the history of ever have you told a woman to calm down and that made her calm down?
Okay, I'll agree there. Because that shit don't work. Don't tell me to calm the fuck down. If I need to calm down, I'll calm the fuck down. But if I'm mad, don't tell me to calm down. It's just gonna piss me off more. I agree there. Continue.
Oh, you're right, I need to calm down. No, never. It just makes it worse. So, all my guys out there, don't tell a woman to calm down. Don't snatch my stuff from me. You know what I mean? Like, you have to stand up for yourself. And
Most likely, ain't nobody just gonna be snatching your shit from you like that. People goofing off, playing around that are your friends, maybe. But like this being the number 10 or whatever, or maybe whatever it is, 9 or 10. Like she just ran out of shit to say at the end, so she just started filling it in with like just pointless shit.
while a lot of people try to play it off as they're just kidding around, I promise you they're not. They're seeing how far they can get with you. And we're in prison, we are bored. We're watching everyone's body language, eye movement. We're watching what they're doing. We're watching how they respond to situations. Everyone is taking notes on everyone else. The correctional officers are taking notes on the inmates are taking notes on the correctional officers. The inmates are taking notes on everything else because we're watching. I would know when a correctional officer had a bad night the night before because his mood changed this much. And while he thinks he's playing it off, I know that something's wrong. I can just.
And I will agree there that the same with my husband when he was in, he could tell, he'd tell you that you could tell when not to fuck with the guard if they had a bad night or something was going on. Yeah, there was definitely you could definitely tell when not to fuck with certain guards.
Tell. I could sense that. I could know something's going on at home. Maybe this week you have a wedding right.
And I do know whenever I was when he was in and I was very sick, I ended up having open heart surgery. I ended up with endocarditis that led to open heart surgery. I had nurses. I've had gastroparesis pretty much my whole life. It didn't get diagnosed till late, but I was very very sick, and I ended up getting an infection from them putting lines in my arms, and ended up with endocarditis on my heart, and they literally thought I was gonna die. Like every day, they didn't know if I was gonna live or die, and so they like I got to call my husband at the prison and call the chaplain, and the chaplain would go get my husband and put him on the phone because they didn't know if I was going to die. This was in federal prison. It's not something they normally do on a regular basis. But they did allow him to come talk to me because they knew how sick I was. The doctors had confirmed it to the prison, that they didn't know if I was make it through the night. And so after a while, it went on for like 3 weeks that they thought I was going to die. And eventually, I had to stop calling the prison and telling them because in reality, it was every time he would get an update on me and get to talk to me for just a couple of minutes, they would put him in the hole for the rest of the day. And until they found out that I was okay and made it the next day, then he'd get out in the daytime and talk to me like midday, and he'd be back in the hole by night because they didn't know if I was going to make it through the night again. It's so crazy. And they do that, but they put him in the hole because they're afraid that, they will S-word, sue, and that they'll hurt themselves. And so it was very hard on him, and once I found out what they were doing to him, unless I really thought, because at first it was nice to be able to talk to him every night, because I didn't get to do that on a normal basis, and because they thought I was dying, the doctors were verifying it, they were letting him talk to me for just a couple minutes, say goodbye, and then like I got kind of used to it, but I was enjoying being able to talk to him, not enjoying being sick, but and eventually he was like, unless it's really going on, you gotta stop, because if he was like, they're putting me in the hole every night, and what that does to people mentally, like it wasn't good for him. So unless I thought something really, really was going down, I didn't call, and and ended up being easier on him because I made it, obviously. But yeah, it was a hard time, you know, because he wanted to know whether I was okay or not. At the same time, he wanted to know, he wanted to not be in the hole, you know.
Next week you don't. Maybe this week you look more tired, you're a little stressed out. I could always tell what was going on with the officers without talking to them, just watching their body language. Number 10, when you are cooking something and a female is trying to reach over you for stuff, or they're in your space in some way, whether that's the chow hall or you're cooking something or you're writing.
Yeah, this one seems ridiculous too, Jessica. Really, someone reaching over you while you're cooking? Nah, if you ain't a pushover, that shit ain't happening to you on a regular basis. People ain't just reaching over you, letting their sweaty armpits drip on your food and shit. No, that ain't happening. Not on a normal basis. Like, not enough to include it in a top 10 ways to be disrespected in prison. I could come up with a whole lot better list of 10 ways to be disrespected in prison and probably not include anything that you included, but
something at a table and they're breathing on you and they're reaching over the table for stuff, that is another way that they're trying to disrespect you. And while I could,
and it's not just while cooking, chick. If they're doing that to you, period, you that anyways. Like, why is it just while cooking? I don't know. Because you ran out of shit to talk about. It sounds like.
and it seems small, you have to let it be known, you can't touch my stuff, you don't touch me, get your freaking dragon breath out my face. Like, that's another way that they disrespect you.
I'm sorry, but I'm picturing this chick going up in the prison acting like she's a hard ass. Oh, New York, what's up, New York? Hey, you New York, what's up, New York? Hey, 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 hey. She even bragged in one video talking about, are you being written by Jason Forcer? Oh my gosh. Like, all these girls know him, and like, oh my gosh, like, Jason. What the fuck ever, girls. What are you out there really bragging about Jason for, really? Where's the attributes at that we're supposed to be seeing?
Oh, I just thought of another way. Okay. Another way that inmates will disrespect each other is if you are new, and this, again, this happens a lot of times with new people. If you are new and you walk away from your bunk and you come back and there's like a group of girls sitting on your bunk, you have to let them know they can't be there. I guess that would kind of fall under when they're.
Her again, you have to let them know that they can't be there. You have to, my ass, depending on who they are and where they rank at in the prison system, between the prisoners. Yeah, you got to figure out where the fuck you lie, and don't let people disrespect you and walk all over you. But don't take what this chick is saying to heart and use it like verbatim, because woo, more than likely you're gonna get beat up over half the shit she told you to do in this video.
Just come into your cell. But there are two different types of dorms in prison: a closed tier cell where it's individual cells with you and one other roommate, or an open dorm where it's all just bunk beds. So there's different types of units, but you can't just sit on someone else's bed without being invited to. And if you're new, a lot of people will come in and just try to sit on your bed, have a little social group, have a cup of coffee, hanging out on your bed. Now that,
I'll tell you this much. If they did this to her when she came in, is why she's telling this story most likely, is because it happened to her. They just thought you were a bitch and a pushover, straight up. They didn't get two shits. If they really went in and sat on your bed and you weren't even friends with them, yeah. And just please, guys, don't take this to heart. If you go to jail tomorrow, don't do what this video says, because more than likely he's going to get you beat up.
that would never fly with me. That would never be okay with me because I don't want you in my space. Go over there. That you live over there, dude. You're 5 houses down. That's kind of how you talk in prison. You'd say things like to make yourself feel like you're normal.
Yeah, the house. It's their house, and it is their house. And yeah, You want people to stay the fuck out your house. I get that.
Like, dude, don't you live 4 doors down? It's an open dorm. There are no doors. Or don't you live 5 houses down if you're in a
And I've only heard my husband say doors. I've never heard him actually call it a house. It's a fucking cell. It's a bunk. It's a cell. And your your roommate is usually your cellie. Like I've never even. She don't even use the right lingo to have been in prison as long as she has been. So I don't know if she's just trying not to use the lingo so she doesn't look as bad or what. But
closed here with cells. House. This is my house. It's a cell with a bunk bed and a toilet and a sink, but this is my house, and that's just the terminology that you use. Get out my house. I didn't invite you in my house. You were trespassing. All right, you guys, I really hope you enjoyed my top.
Well, that is it, guys. That was her top 10 ways inmates disrespect each other. Should have been how to survive your first couple days in prison, maybe, or something else. But she grabbed that. She grabbed that title just to, I don't know, make it look better. I don't know, Jessica, what you were doing here, but please, guys, don't take this to heart. Check it out, fill it out. If you go to jail, like, maybe not take some of this advice right off the bat, because if you're new, if you ain't rowdy enough to deal with these people, you'll find your place. But don't just automatically start attacking people like she's saying, because you're going to end up hurt in the long run, in my opinion. Anyways, I hope you guys have a good one. This is way early for me. I'm going to be doing some more. Maybe this wasn't the greatest one to commentate on, but I will be doing more and more interesting ones. But I was like, girl, these are the suckiest top 10 ways to do any fucking thing. But I will talk to you guys later. Love ya. If you're not good, like my husband says, be good at it.